He's a congressman, he's controversial, and in the inscrutable world of reality TV, he's become an unlikely celebrity. Congressman George Santos is running for re-election. He's here to talk about that and more. The Point starts right now. Congressman George Santos has been in office for 4 months, achieving a notoriety that has made him a name far beyond his Long Island district. So, Congressman, how do you feel about this notoriety that you have?
I didn't sign up for it, that's for sure. When you're running for Congress, Marcia, you're running to go be the voice of your community. Now, it happens that I have a very loud voice, and I'm starting to understand what I can do with it for the good, and, you know, take lemons and turn them into margaritas. Not lemonade, it's boring, but it's working and it's paying off in a way. I'm just trying to be as effective as I can and as responsible as I can for the people of the 3rd Congressional District.
But has it created any good moments for you, bad moments for you, nightmares, not nightmares? Like, what is it like to have had this happen to you?
Like everything in life, you reap the consequences of your actions. Right? So there's been good moments, and there's been dark moments, there's been sad moments, there's been moments of fear. But all in all, there's a balance. I have a good attitude towards life. You know, I've always maintained a good attitude throughout this entire process. What happened to me the first 30 days of this year will follow me forever, but in no way, shape, or form will I ever allow it to affect the kind of work I deliver for the people who elected me.
So I'm curious, what are the good moments, the bad moments, and the moments when you were afraid?
Good moments, my staff. They're the best part of my life these days, aside from my family, obviously. They really keep me grounded, focused, centered. They do the work, and they stuck by me through thick and thin. That was a good moment. A bad moment, the worst moment was when I was trying to understand the overwhelming attention and all the negative things being written and all the mean things people write on social media. It's just really... You sometimes think, can people really think these things? Do they think this is funny? It's like some really negative, dark things that are said. So those are bad moments sometimes.
Did it make you cry?
No. No, I didn't shed a single tear throughout this, not because I'm not human, because there was nothing to cry about. There was a lot of thinking. Now, a moment of fear was when I received our really first credible risk assessment death threat. Got Capitol Police involved. We had the NYPD involved. The gentleman was arrested and arraigned. Was
this in New York or was it in Washington?
Oh, no, we were in Washington. We were left a voicemail. The voicemail was explicit in detail of what was going to happen to myself, my husband. Oh, I'm going to come take you and your husband, in an F-word derogatory term. I'm going to bash his brains out, make you wash it with a baseball bat, and I'm going to take it to yours, and I'm going to blow up your office.
Oh, my God.
So he left that in a voicemail, and we reported it.
And when you heard it, what was your reaction?
That scared me. They were coming after my family now, and that was very strange.
So I wonder, you know, sometimes I think about what happened to you, and I wonder if that was actually a strategy. Your decision to inflate your resume was a strategy that helps you get a larger-than-life personality in the Congress before you got there.
No strategy whatsoever. Just stupid decision. Should never do it. Should have never done it.
But in retrospect, it might have been a smart strategy.
I don't think so.
Or was it a dumb strategy?
It was no strategy for sure. It was a stupid decision. Like every human, I made a mistake, and now I'm just paying the consequences. Now there's a benefit to it, right? There's always an upside to everything. So now we just need to explore it for the greater good.
I mean, see, there's a part of me that thinks it's sort of like Trump-like, because, you know, Donald Trump seems to thrive on chaos and the things around him, and this is you're sort of become like a New York Trump in a sense, where you have that chaos, that energy that's floating around you. Have you ever thought about that as a comparison and whether you can use it to your benefit?
I don't compare myself to anybody. I think that's arrogant, and I don't have that arrogant complex. A lot of people have pointed out, like, you've been able to capture the same essence as Trump, and you've been elected to office for 4 months. There's people in Congress for 40 years that nobody knows their name. You've been there for a little over 100 days, and the whole country knows who you are. I can't go out in the street without being recognized. It's uncomfortable, because because I used to be a very
comfortable.
It is. I used to be I am a very private person. I like going out to dinner with my husband, with my friends, my family, and just being fun. And you know, I don't get to do that anymore.
People come up to you when you're out to dinner?
Oh yeah. I mean,
what do they say?
I mean, it's mixed bag of feelings, right? There's some people who come up, you're great, we love you, we support you, and then there's people who flip me the bird or they say mean things, and you know, move on with their lives, and we move on with our lives. But there's not a single instance that I can go into a restaurant without at least a dozen pictures being taken about of me having dinner with whoever I'm with.
Does that stop you from going out?
No, it doesn't. I still go out. You see all the pictures online.
So you like it?
I don't like it.
You like being a social media darling?
No, I don't. So I don't like the attention, but it doesn't deter me from going about my daily life. I still shop at the same places. I'm oftenly seen at the Americana Mall in my district. I'm oftenly seen at the same restaurants I always go to. I didn't change my life. People just happen to know where I am now, so they're expecting to see me there, especially when they know we're in recess and I'm in district. I feel like there's always people lurking around these areas, reporters, journalists, so it's just part of life now. You adjust.
So
we're born naked, we put clothes on, and we adjust to wearing clothes. So I went in as a nobody, and now everybody knows who I am. I have to adjust to that and just make it part of my life and move on with it.
Is it possible to make that part of your life, given the fact that there's a lot of negativity?
Look, Marcia, negative energy is energy, and I believe that energy can be harnessed for good. So no matter how bad they throw it at you, it's about how you apply it in life and how your outlook in life is. We're all human beings. We're all flawed. If you look inside yourself, if everybody looks inside themselves, you'll find some things that you're probably not really proud of or things you would have done differently. I'm no different, right? I just have to do it in front of millions of Americans watching every time I do an interview with people like you, and I have to do it. And I've eaten that humble pie time and time again. I'm not embarrassed to do it. I'm ashamed of some of the decisions I've made, but I hold near and dear to me the fact that I can cope with the fact that I want to be judged by my work in this body for what I was elected for, with the propositions I gave. And I think I'm doing a good job. And I'm going to be judged in 2 years when my employers, my constituents, decide to hire me again or not.
So you've had 100 days in office. What has it been like for you, and what do you think that you've been able to do?
So in the first 100 days, it's been a learning experience, right? It's the learning curve of a lifetime. The knowledge is invaluable. And I've been able to learn my real passions for community service and for public service, and one of them is water. The quality of life of people on Long Island.
Water is a big issue in Long Island.
Water is a massive issue on Long Island.
But what have you been able to accomplish?
So far, we started to work with some water districts that have been having some issues. A good shout out to the village of Farmingdale, who is in a state of emergency. We've put in some appropriations for them in an emergency characteristic. I've already notified the speaker of their urgency and need of the funding, and along with other communities in the district. And as the appropriations deadline approached, we got it all submitted. Now it's just about fighting for that funding. I didn't request a lot to begin with because there was a lot of politicizing. So in Nassau County, the way it works is they have the village association, the Association of Villages of Nassau County. They chose to play politics and not work with my office and notify all the other villages and constituents of what their right is, what their federal representative can do for them.
How does that work for you?
Oh, we proactively. My staff took it upon themselves to then just proactively reach out to every village out there. So I don't care if the
But do they want to work with you, or do they want to work with the Nassau County?
No, they want to work with us. They're working with us. I was just at a meeting with three mayors of a particular village in the district, and we're working with the mayors. I'm bypassing the supervisors because they're bought and paid for by the party, and they do whatever the party wants them to do. The party never liked me, never really supported me. They admitted it on TV. Now I just get to be a free agent of the people. Marcia, I have no chains of political apparatus holding me down to doing their becking order. I do what I think is best for the district, and I listen to the district.
But if you don't play ball with the Republican Party, how are you going to get anything done? Because they're going to try to do their priorities and not your priorities.
The Republican Party in Washington, D.C. is very disconnected from local GOPs. I'm talking about the local GOP. I work very well with the National Party in Washington, D.C. I have a great relationship with the Speaker. I'm supportive of the Speaker. I'm supportive of our agenda. I just don't have to show up to the rubber chicken dinners of the party locally at home, which is a great favor for me. More time for...
You don't like rubber chicken?
No, neither do you.
So let me ask you this. I know that you want to run for re-election, but the question really becomes, how can you really deliver for your district. I mean, you're on no committees. Jerry Nadler has banned you from going to the bipartisan meetings of the New York delegation. And the 11 bills that you've actually sponsored, you have no co-sponsors.
Okay.
So how do you get anything done when you're sort of a pariah in Washington?
So the statement pariah, that's harsh words because it's not true. I work very well, and I have working relationships with Democrats. I'm texting back and forth with a few of them if you looked at my phone right now.
Well, who are you texting? Which Democrats?
I don't put people's names out on the press because I've learned that then you guys, or not you necessarily, but the press will go attack them, and that would do a disservice to my district.
So basically what you're saying is it's not considered a good thing to be working with George Santos?
Well, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I just don't want to give anybody the burden of having a myriad of questions coming at them, but you know, the landfall that comes with, oh, you're working with George Santos, why? And then that just starts a whole trigger when in reality we're working on good things together. To answer your question on sponsorships, different offices have different strategies. I took the first 100 days to put out my agenda, to put out my bills. Now I'm going to take the next quarter and I'm going to work the bills, which means I'm going to get co-sponsors on them. And you'll see those updates as they come. I have already people that are hooked for one bill or another. So I do have co-sponsors that will be coming in. I just didn't do piecemeal, one bill at a time, get the bill, get the co-sponsors, get the bill, get the co-sponsors. I just said, put the bills and we'll go work on the co-sponsors later. That's what my office is now focused on.
But see, one of the bills that I looked at that you did was to deal with SALT, which is a huge issue.
It was my first bill.
Not only in your district, but all over the New York City area, the Westchester, the suburban area. But you have no co-sponsors on the bill, not even, you know, Mike Lawler, who is an upstate Republican, who said that SALT was one of his first priorities, but he isn't a co-sponsor of the...
He has his own bill, though. So we have deferring bills. He has a bill that has marriage attached to it, which essentially would double it from 10 to 20,000, but there's a marriage component to it.
And you want to go from 10 to 50?
I want to go to 10 to 50 with no strings attached because the average property tax income burden in my district ranges from $37,000 to $42,000. Would cover a great deal of the middle class folks who move to Long Island to live in high school grading school zones and school districts, pardon me. So that's my approach. Now there's a third SALT approach, which is coming from the other three Republicans on Long Island, which is essentially going back to the status quo with no limits, creating tax loopholes. I won't support that.
Why?
Well, I won't support it because then the reason that there was a revision in SALT to begin with is because there was a lot of accusations of tax loopholing, right? So there's people in my district specifically, that pay $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year in property taxes. Creating an unlimited cap on SALT would start getting other states like Kentucky, Pennsylvania to scream, oh, we're subsidizing New York State. We have a bunch of people in New York State that are taking the tax loophole of the SALT deduction to not pay their fair share. And I agree with them. I think the SALT should be a sensible property tax mitigation tool for middle class, not for the ultra wealthy.
But see, in the politics of Washington, when you have three competing bills, one from Mike Lawler, who's widely respected and you know, is going to face a re-election challenge of his own, and another from three other Republicans on Long Island who are also widely respected, and then there's you that have had some issues. Whose bill is going to get precedence? Because they're not going to pass three SALT bills or even consider three SALT bills. And who knows whether the Congress would even pass a SALT bill anyway because they hate New York.
Well, Marcia, I've made it clear. The Speaker needs my vote for the next debt limit. I proved that last week when I was the last vote to be casted, and I had the option to fail it, and I was an open critic of the bill. I chose to pass the bill to give him a seat at the table. I've already made it clear, my SALT bill or any sort of combination of SALT bill that is not an unlimited cap. There is a cap, but that is a higher cap, and I don't think 20,000 is that number. I think 50 is really the sensible number. We need to put politics aside. If we're going to really talk about raising the debt limit and talking about the budget.
You're really saying you're holding hostage your vote on the debt limit.
And that's my vote to hold hostage, and my district supports me for it. I've been talking to my constituents. Yesterday I had in a mobile office hours, and I made that very clear to many people, Republicans and Democrats alike, like my position.
So what did Mr. McCarthy say?
No, I haven't told him that directly. I've made it public.
Well, now you're telling him on my show.
It's a public statement. I have my position. I have my priorities for my district, and that's my priority.
How strong are you going to? I mean, if he comes to you and you say, look, he says, I need your vote on this debt limit.
And I need SALT to be in it.
And you will not?
I will not. I will not be Tom Suozzi, who said no salt, no deal, and caved into every deal.
But it could be a really heavy lift, especially since, let's face it, there's not a lot of sympathy for New York in general on the salt.
And we create sympathy, Marcia, because we're part of the union, and we pay damn too much taxes to not have sympathy.
So do you think that you can align with other Republicans in the House to try to get them to support your salt bill? I mean, you do have some friends there.
We do have some friends. I do have some friends, and I think, you know...
Will they vote? Will they do the same thing, hold hostage the vote on the debt limit in order to help you on salt?
I don't know. I haven't asked anybody to fight my battles for me. I'm fighting my own battle right now. I gave the Speaker the opportunity to go negotiate with the President, and I think that that's what's most important.
Okay, so...
he has a diverse GOP. This isn't the old GOP,
how
right?
desperately does he need your vote?
I mean, it's not about desperation. It's about respect, right? The Speaker wants to pass unanimous bills as a unison from the party, and I respect him for that. And I would say he strives.
But in this case, debt service is a really divisive issue.
It is
in the conference.
It is, of course, it is.
So your defection could actually hurt him.
I don't want to defect, and it's not.
But you're saying that you will.
It's not that hard. Just consider the bill.
Otherwise, you're going to be a defection.
In the name of representing the 3rd District of New York, I have to be, or else I would stand for nothing.
Solemn promise. That's a
solemn promise. I've made that promise. I've made it clear. Tom Suozzi called himself no salt, no deal. He caved onto every deal. I am no salt, no deal, period.
So one of the other bills that you're supporting as a co-sponsor is to make the AR-15 a national gun. Why is that a good position?
We have a national everything.
There's so many mass shootings.
I understand.
How can you defend that?
But Marcia, it's not about defending. Mass shootings have nothing to do with guns. They have to do with mental health, because we have a bad health care system in this country.
People with mental health issues can get an AR-15.
Well, just by designating an AR-15 the national gun doesn't mean that it's wildly available. The laws are standing there. And the reality is, when we're talking about people accessing guns, we need to make sure that we're holding accountable the point of sale. Are they upholding current existing laws? We have hundreds of gun laws on the books that are not upheld nationally. That's not the federal government's responsibility. Those are state localities that have to reinforce those laws. Goes to those gun shops and say, hey, are you reinforcing laws? Are you making sure that you're checking this and you're making sure they're not on registries, that they're not terrorists, criminals with bad... It's just there.
So you actually are telling me that you're supporting gun reform legislation?
It's not. I'm supporting gun reform legislation. The legislation's already there. I'm asking for the laws to be upheld. The laws are already on the books. That
should there be stronger laws?
I think the laws are pretty strong as they stand. If you look at them, they're just not applied. That's what people fail to understand. There's a lot of people saying we should do this. That's already a law. It's just not applied because nobody's holding anybody accountable. There's no oversight against the laws that are already on the books.
So AR-15, do you own one?
I don't. I don't own guns. Look, I like shooting. I go shooting for sport. I go into shooting range.
What guns do you shoot?
Berettas, Glocks, just pistols, just regular guns. Nothing.
You like to play spy? I'm going to go shoot you?
No. Absolutely not. Look, I'm always aiming either at a target or at a skeet when I barely hit them, but I try. It's pretty fun.
So you're never going to buy an AR-15?
No. I don't feel the need to own one.
Then why make it a national gun?
Well, because it's manufactured in America. It's made. Oh, I don't take money from lobbyists, Marcia. If you ever look at all my stuff. I'm not saying you're taking money.
I say you're playing up to them for their support.
No, I'm not. Like I said, I don't need their support because I don't accept their money. I don't take lobbying money.
So let me ask you this question. I know that you're friends with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. Are you trying to, how do you build relationships in Washington? And who would you say are your friends that you could count on if you went to them and say, hey, I need your support on a bill, say salt or something else?
Look, it's about you know, you wash my hand, I wash your hand, I support your bill, you support my bill. A lot of people come to me for support for co-sponsorships because they know it'll get attention, and they're trying to get their bill notoriety, right? So
you're talking about your notoriety as a positive thing.
Well, that's how you can turn lemons into margaritas, as I said earlier.
So
use it for something positive.
You're using your notoriety to be a lawmaker.
Well, yeah, you have to. You work with what you have in D.C., whether if it's your deep connections in the establishment, whether it's the ability to get coverage on the media, whether it's your ability to go on a platform and tweet something and millions of people see it at the same time. Whether they agree or disagree with you, at least it's out there now. Now it's a conversation point. So I need to use that to my advantage because that's the best way I can represent my district.
So you like your notoriety?
I don't like it, but I'm using it to the advantage that it gives me.
It could sort of be like a strategy.
Now, if you're talking strategy, yeah, sure. You take what you were given and you turn it into something.
So I'm wondering why you decided to run for Congress in the first place.
I think we addressed that when I was here. I just wanted to be a part of something different and change. I wanted to be a voice. I wanted to go fight for the people, my neighbors and my community, and, you know, just leave my mark in some weird way of how I try to improve society.
So how were you say you're running for re-election.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you going to convince people in Long Island to re-elect you, given all the controversy and the fact that your own party, the Republican Party, says they're going to back somebody else?
It's fine. Look, I don't represent the Republican Party of Nassau County. I represent the constituents of Nassau County, the 700,000 plus employers that I have. Those are my constituents, right? That's who I work for. I don't care what the party says.
Quite frankly, run ads against you.
That's fine. Let them run ads against me. Every dollar that the GOP spends against a Republican, that means they're not defending other seats that they have to defend, which is stupid, if we're being honest, on a strategy level, right? So if they want to run a primary,
they're going to also run ads supporting whoever candidate they pick.
That's totally fine. Go ahead, do it. I'll raise the money.
So far, you haven't been so good at raising money.
I didn't raise any money in the beginning of the year. I didn't attempt. I was too busy taking care of other issues, and I didn't try. I didn't try, and I started raising now, and I, in good confidence, can say that I'm doing very well.
So how much have you raised so far? You're not going to tell me?
You're going to wait and see. You see the finals. Come on, Marcia. You should know better than that.
I don't. I ask the questions. It's my show. So what do you say to your critics who are going to say, you know, they raise questions about how you got there in the first place, that you didn't get there in a legitimate way?
Well, I got there in a legitimate way. I was elected by the people, right?
I know, but they're talking
and I have the First Amendment right? People can say whatever they want. It's not likable, right? But here's the reality.
Your First Amendment right to say whatever you want and make up your own.
I didn't look
your own version of facts.
If you want to go off and rehash whatever the media puts out there, a lot of it has been dispelled. I've sent a lot of information backing and discrediting a lot of their reporting. They just don't want to report on it.
So I guess the next question I would ask you is this: you know, there are investigations of you in Congress, both ethics violations and your financial records. Have you had to testify before any of these people who are investigating?
Well, look, it's an ongoing investigation of the facts, and I'm not going to comment on ongoing investigations. It's irresponsible and it's not prudent, but I've been compliant and giving everything that's asked of me.
And have you been able to explain where the money came from for your campaign that you say that you contributed?
Like I said, we're not there yet, and I won't debate what the investigation entails until it's concluded, and I'll come back on your show and give you a full detail of it.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you about immigration.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a huge issue in New York and in the country. But given what's going on with the immigrants coming to New York, I wonder how you feel about that and whether there's a solution to help New York cope with this huge number of people who are coming here. As
a first-generation born American to immigrant parents, I'm sensitive to immigration. I'm very sensitive to all the issues at hand. But I believe in our sovereignty. I believe in protecting our border. I think New York, I'm going to point out two different things to you. New York jumped and mobilized millions of dollars, to the tune of $1 billion almost, to accommodate all these migrants. And it's a little offensive to me, though, that for years we've had a perpetual issue of homelessness in New York, and nobody ever mobilized to take care of our homeless population, our NYCHA residents, people living in absolutely inhumane conditions. But let's go back to immigration. I think that the issue needs to be solved at the source. We have a flawed immigration policy. We have a broken border. We need to fix the border. We need to make sure that we create points of entry and that people come in through points of entry with whatever the processing time is. Here's a thing.
So should we close the borders?
I'm not saying closing. I think we should finish the border construction and we should silo people through points of entry. Instead of Biden wanting to police Americans on their Venmo transactions of $600 by hiring 87,000 IRS agents, how about hiring 87,000 USCSI agents to literally remove the burden and the pressure in the immigration system. That would be a more prudent thing to do.
How do you feel about one of your fellow Republicans who you say you get along with, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, who is sending busloads of people to New York? And New York, as of Friday, is so overburdened that they have run out of hotel space, and now they're going to have to put the arriving immigrants and asylum seekers into gyms.
I resent him for it, but I don't blame him.
You resent him because?
Because he's giving the burden to us, but I don't blame him. Imagine him.
Why?
Well, Marcia, he's the front line of this. If we're struggling.
Why send it to New York?
Well, because New York welcomed it. Adams went on TV and said, send him up.
He did not. He just said we're a sanctuary.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's the same thing as saying send them up here.
No, I don't think he said send them up.
I mean, look.
I mean, Marcia, that's definitely
if you're virtue
hyperbole.
Okay, so let's take it back. If we're going on TV knowing there's an immigration crisis in the southern border and the states affected the most are Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico, and what we're doing is going, we're a sanctuary state and city, we won't do anything. Guess what those mayors and governors are going to do? Send them up here.
But here's now.
Just stay out of it. You're so far removed. Just keep your mouth shut, and maybe this burden won't come to your doorstep.
Friend, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, to send them to a different state. I mean, the burden.
I think they're sending them all across the country.
No, but New York has almost 59,000, almost 60,000 immigrants as of today.
I feel bad for the families. Look, we're talking about the governor and the mayor and all of that. These are public administrators. They signed up for these difficult jobs, right? To be executives of the state, of the city. Let's talk about the families. These people are in limbo. I feel bad for them. They're probably coming from a very bad situation in wherever they're coming from, and now they get here and they're bussed here and they're flown there and they're bussed into a hotel room. Marcia, we have a broken immigration policy. We need immigration reform. We need border security reform. That's really what it comes down to.
So you say that you feel sorry for these people. I'm wondering if you think that some of these people should be taken to Long Island, which has some extra space, and maybe given jobs and treated.
Absolutely not. We don't have the infrastructure on Long Island. We struggle.
There's some hotels out there. There are
that struggle to keep.
You could provide jobs for them out there.
There's no way possible.
How could you, as a first-generation American and an immigrant, you wouldn't have them come to you?
Well, it's not that I wouldn't have them come to my district, which in reality there's probably some already there, and I'd love to get back to you and your producers and give you an update on that later. But the reality is I have to be loyal to my constituents. We don't have the infrastructure.
They don't want the asylum seekers in the community?
I'm not saying that they don't want them.
You don't want them.
No, it's not that I don't want them. We have nowhere to put them. Where would we put them, Marcia? We don't have the infrastructure.
Churches,
Long Island,
hotels,
Long Island already has an affordability crisis with our youth. We can't afford to even stay on Long Island, let alone if we're going to come and put more stress onto the very sensitive housing market that Long Island has. Right? It's just a community that can't sustain it. It's real. Look, we're being a realist, right? We can't do it. It's not that we don't want to. It's not that I'm not compassionate. We just can't do it.
Okay, it's time for a break. We'll be right back with more from Congressman George Santos.